I will reject all attempts to weaken Canada, all attempts to wear us down, to break us down, so that America can own us. That will never, ever happen.
We have a lot to do in this country. We have a lot positive to do in this country, building this country in a way, building one Canadian economy.
With just a few days left before Donald Trump's 35% tariff on Canadian exports officially takes effect, Canada's Prime Minister has remained firm, showing no signs of wavering. While many fear the economic fallout could reach into the tens of billions of dollars, Mark Carney has stepped up, refusing to back down, and delivered a clear message. "We will not bow to a bad deal," he declared, "even if it means paying a price in the billions." And indeed, quiet but determined moves have already begun. Provincial premiers are more united than ever, new oil pipeline projects are back on the table, and a completely new economic front is quietly taking shape within Canada itself. The current situation has led many to ask a critical question. Is this the moment when Canada finally breaks free from its heavy trade dependency on the United States, once and for all? You're watching Canadian Bulletin, where we tell the stories the powerful would rather keep hidden, using plain language and verified facts. If you find this information valuable and worth spreading, please support us by subscribing to the channel. It's completely free, but to us, it means everything. We're aiming for our first milestone, 1,000 subscribers, and you could be part of that journey. Let's go back to July 22, 2025, a seemingly quiet day in the lakeside town of Huntsville, Ontario. But behind the tranquil setting was a closed-door meeting of Canadian premiers, and the atmosphere was tense. Leaks from Washington had begun to surface. The Trump administration was preparing a fresh wave of tariffs, 35% on a wide range of Canadian goods. Everything from steel, aluminium, and auto parts to softwood lumber was on the list. And the projected losses are no small matter. Nearly $35 billion worth of Canadian exports now face potential restrictions. The markets are uneasy. Industries are sounding the alarm. But while many expected a conciliatory response or some form of traditional diplomacy, Carney took a different path, direct and uncompromising. His message even caught some of his closest allies off guard, not because he lacked experience or misunderstood the risks, but because Carney is clearly preparing to chart a new course for the country, one no longer at the mercy of every shift in leadership coming out of Washington.
We are looking for the best deal for Canada. We are only going to accept the best deal for Canada. That is very much informed. What we collectively can most control is building a stronger economy, moving from reliance to resilience and division to unity.
At the heart of this escalating tension are two leaders with entirely contrasting personalities and approaches. On one side stands Donald Trump, the former U.S. president, long known for his trademark tactic of using tariffs as leverage to pressure other countries into concessions. Now back with an even more hardline stance, he's prepared to wield economic weapons to fast-track a bilateral deal, even if it means Canada and other neighbors must pay a steep price. On the other side is Mark Carney, former governor of the Bank of England and a seasoned economist, now tasked with steering Canada through one of its most pivotal economic turning points in recent history. Carney doesn't make headlines with bombastic statements, but he's backed by some of the country's most influential political figures. Ontario's Doug Ford, Alberta's Danielle Smith, Quebec's François Legault, and Nova Scotia's Tim Houston. Each has expressed cautious support, united by a shared concern. If negotiations collapse, the consequences for Canada's industrial base could be devastating. At the core of the dispute is a proposed new trade agreement between Canada and the United States, an accord expected to stabilize bilateral relations and safeguard millions of jobs. But time is not on their side. If the two countries fail to reach consensus before August 1st, Canada may face a sweeping set of retaliatory tariffs threatened by Trump. The U.S. administration is proposing duties of up to 35% on a wide array of Canadian imports, from industrial metals and auto parts to construction lumber, leaving virtually no sector untouched. And the potential losses are staggering. More than 2.3 million Canadian workers are employed in directly affected industries. Steel and aluminium alone generate $14 billion annually for Canada. Auto and parts exports exceed $23 billion. Meanwhile, the forestry sector, a lifeline for many rural communities, contributes around $6 billion in export value. With tariffs of this scale, the entire Canadian economy could be shaken. But Carney isn't making bold statements simply to score political points. In a closed-door meeting with premiers, he reportedly sent a clear signal. Unless the agreement guarantees two key principles, Canada's economic policy sovereignty and long-term resilience for its strategic industries, he won't sign it. "We won't accept a deal just for the sake of having a deal," he is said to have declared. In other words, Carney is drawing a red line. If the United States chooses to play hardball, this time Canada is ready to walk away from the table and carve its own path forward, no matter how rough the road ahead may be.
The group focused on building our country, building positively, building here at home, building one Canadian economy, but also building nation-building projects from coast to coast to coast, and developing new trade relations around the world. We did have a good discussion around these ongoing negotiations with the United States.
The pressure is mounting by the hour. As of July 23rd, there are exactly 8 days left until the United States could officially impose the 35% tariffs proposed by Donald Trump. The entire country is holding its breath. Meanwhile, in Washington, Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc is on the ground, entering the final round of negotiations with the U.S., a high-stakes sprint aimed at steering Canada away from a full-blown trade crisis. However, regardless of what's unfolding at the negotiating table, Prime Minister Mark Carney delivered a clear and unwavering message to provincial premiers during a recent closed-door meeting. Canada will not be cornered into accepting an unfair deal. He stated plainly that if the outcome does not serve the country's long-term interests in terms of economic sovereignty, industrial policy autonomy, and worker security, he is prepared to walk away. This message wasn't just for show. It comes at a time when all eyes are on the federal government, with Canadians hoping Ottawa won't repeat past mistakes, when the country repeatedly made concessions just to preserve a stable trade relationship with the U.S. This time, Carney is looking to shift the balance. Rather than merely reacting and avoiding blows, he's working to take control of the narrative, defending the core pillars of Canada's economy. And if those goals cannot be secured, he appears fully prepared to lead the country in a new direction, one that is less dependent, even if the initial cost is steep.
We are looking for the best deal for Canada. We're only going to accept the best deal for Canada. That is very much informed.
As the clock continues to count down toward the August 1st deadline, tension is mounting across provincial capitals throughout Canada. Time is running short, and while the public negotiations between Canada's trade minister and U.S. representatives unfold in Washington, the country's actual response strategy is being shaped elsewhere. From the Prime Minister's office in Ottawa to closed-door meetings in Huntsville and even at Premier Doug Ford's private residence. There, away from cameras and media scrutiny, it's all about strategic handshakes and concrete action plans. Ford, along with Alberta's Danielle Smith and Saskatchewan's Scott Moe, signed a Memorandum of Understanding this week, an ambitious agreement to establish a new infrastructure network, Canadian-owned and operated, designed to serve Canada's interests first. The plan includes the construction of additional oil pipelines, using steel manufactured right in Ontario. The provinces also aim to develop new rail corridors for transporting strategic minerals and to expand logistical links to ports along James Bay, reducing Canada's reliance on American seaports. As Carney previously emphasized, we don't need to stand behind any other country, and we certainly don't need to follow President Trump's lead. That statement has quickly become the unofficial slogan for a broader push to rebuild a more self-reliant Canadian economy. However, not all provinces are on the same page. British Columbia Premier David Eby declined to sign on to the pipeline agreement, highlighting the ongoing regional divides in Canada's strategic approach. On one side are provinces eager to invest in infrastructure that strengthens domestic energy capacity and diversifies market access. On the other, there remain serious concerns about environmental impact and unresolved local interests. Yet behind all the talk of tariffs and pipelines lies a deeper strategy from Prime Minister Carney, one that goes far beyond simply countering Trump's trade policies. He's aiming for something more profound: to end Canada's systemic dependence on the U.S. economy. According to Carney, over the past year, Canada has received partnership offers from more than 80 countries, from Europe and Asia to South America and Africa. These weren't just diplomatic niceties, but clear signals that the world is increasingly ready to see Canada as an independent partner, not merely an economic shadow of the United States. Carney calls this the most significant internal transition in decades. In his view, this is no longer the time for reactive trade defense. It's the moment to rebuild Canada's economy, from supply chains and exports to infrastructure and energy, so the country can stand firmly on its own, with or without America at its side.
Our phone is ringing off the hook from other countries who want to do more with Canada. I've had over 80 bilaterals with world leaders since I became Prime Minister. A number of those premiers have been on major trade missions. We have other things to do, and so we're going to focus more and more of our time.
For that very reason, Mark Carney has taken a decisive step forward, not just with words, but with concrete legislative action. He has passed